Hello, everyone. I am Claudio Mugan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. And today, my guest is Rukmini Chaitanya. Rukmini is a senior staff member of the Sivananda Ashram Yoga Retreat in Bahamas and the personal assistant to Swami Svarupananda, the Acharya or spiritual director of the ashram. She regularly teaches the Bhagavad Gita during the Shivananda Yoga Teacher Training, as well as other courses on the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta, positive thinking, meditation, and yoga philosophy. Rukmini Chaitanya is known for her enthusiastic and inspiring teaching style, as well as for her devotion to the lineage and the scriptures. She brings a great deal of clarity to every topic and is highly appreciated for her capacity to unfold complicated topics and present them in a coherent and pure way. Rukmini, thank you very much for joining me today.
Very happy to be here, Claudio. Good to be with you.
Thank you.
And everyone.
So, here we are, another Westerner, by the way you look, taking up on Hindu teaching. So how did you end up on this path?
Well, I was drawn to yoga. Yoga practice for me in the beginning was just what everybody is thinking to be yoga, or most people at least, the asana and the pranayama. I was introduced to this by a family member who recommended it for stress management, good sleep, and so I ended up in the Sivananda Yoga Center, and one thing to the other, and I discovered the deeper aspects of yoga beyond the asana and the pranayama. I discovered meditation and philosophy, scriptures, Vedanta, and ended up becoming a full-time staff in the Sivananda organization. And that has been about 20 years ago.
Wow.
So this is how, yeah.
So they are lucky to have you there.
I'm very, very privileged to be a part of this organization, and I feel very blessed. Must have done something good in the past to bring me to this lineage, to this spiritual family.
Yes, indeed. So what is your perception of world spiritual level in today's environment?
The spiritual level of, you mean of
humanity today? Yes.
Yeah, I would say it's a time of transition. Humanity is in a time of transition. We're going towards a very bright, positive shift. But like with all shifts and changes, there are some challenges on the way. The founder of our organization believed and saw in his vision that humanity is going towards a bright future, but this particular time is a very critical time. And what we are seeing, my teacher, Swami Svarupananda, is saying this many times, that there is a shift in consciousness, and a positive one. People that we interact with, and we interact with many people, are so much more aware and open to spiritual wisdom, to spiritual knowledge. And there is a great desire to, in general, to serve, to be kind. And it's a little bit what I'm saying now, maybe a little bit contrary to what people expect to hear, because they're receiving information from the media, from the news. But those great yogis who are able to tap into the consciousness of humanity are quite optimistic. And also, we have to understand that there is a shift in the sense that many people are drawn to do inner work and to fight the demons inside our own mind. and to become better people. So overall, we're going towards a bright future. But like with anything else, there is some turmoil right now, and we're feeling it. I think many people are feeling it. In a way, it brings even, like the past couple of years with the pandemic, brought many people to the spiritual path, because it's a time of transition. People are seeking answers, are seeking deeper meanings.
Yes, indeed.
And also it brought more unity to humanity. Not just because, this virus was not discriminate between anybody, cultures, race, gender, social economic status, it was everywhere. But also because of this new way to communicate, like you and I are communicating now. This opened up many possibilities for humanity to unite. So to summarize, is a time of transition, but a good one.
Yes, and a lot of people see this time period as the battle between light and dark. Do you and your peers have the same perception?
Yes, but we have to understand where is the light and where is the darkness. In this era where we're living right now, the war between forces of light and forces of darkness is more an inner war in our own minds. So in many, ions back, it used to be more an external war, like the Mahabharata war, in the previous cosmic age. And always they're describing a war between forces of darkness and forces of light in the cosmos. But in this day and age, it's much more an internal struggle. And we are called to be warriors and to make the light overcome the darkness, but in our own minds. So to fight the demons inside us, not so much the demons outside, but inside. This
Yes.
is what we're learning from our teachers and from our scriptures.
Yes. In the introduction, I mentioned Bhagavad Gita, and I can tell you that after I read the commentary done by Paramahansa Yogananda, that book changed my life. So I would like to, talk about several chapters that are pertinent to today's challenges. And the first one is the opposing armies of the spiritual and materialistic forces. Let's expand on that, please.
So the Bhagavad Gita is actually a small text, verses, 18 chapters, but it is included in a large, very large text called the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is a story of a war in ancient India. We're talking about roughly 5,300 years ago. And indeed, it is a battle between, the story is a battle, is a war between inside the same family, the cousins, the Pandavas, the good guys, and the Kauravas, the bad guys, are going into war. The war is unavoidable, and each party is gathering their own allies, and it's a very long epic, one in a form of a poem, which is considered to be the largest poem in the history of humanity, the longest poem. And the Bhagavad Gita is somewhere in the middle, where just before the battle is about to begin, Arjuna, the mighty warrior, who is on the good side, the side of the Pandavas, the virtuous, kind, noble Pandavas, he's one of the brothers. He's a very important warrior in this battle, but he's going through a breakdown in the very first chapter. And then, because of his breakdown, he's seeking guidance He's seeking instructions from Lord Krishna, who is the guru, the teacher, who is God himself, the supreme being, and who happens to be in the story Arjuna's charioteer. So because this terrible war is about to start, and because Arjuna is going through, he collapses just before the battle is about to begin, we get the Bhagavad Gita. Commentators are saying the whole scene was put together in order to allow Krishna to give the Bhagavad Gita to us, to humanity, because he knew that the Dvapara Yuga, the previous cosmic age, is about to end, and that humanity is going into the dark age called Kali Yuga, or the Iron Age. So he wanted humanity to have some manuals, some text to help individuals to evolve spiritually during this difficult age. It's a dark age. So the Mahabharata, on the face value, is a war between two families, in fact, one family. But this behind it, there is really a cosmic war between forces of darkness and forces of light. And so it's a real story. It is a real story, a true story about a battle between the forces of darkness and the forces of light that are always there in this samsara, in this creation. Always there is a cosmic war between what we call the devas and the asuras, the divine and the demonical. But this war, and this is what is important to us as spiritual aspirants, is really symbolically representing the war inside my own mind, your own mind. The demons are our negative emotions. We talk about the 6 enemies: lust, anger, greed, hatred, jealousy, and fear. And so these are the enemies that we are called to fight, and to bring in the forces of light in the form of purity, a mind that is pure, compassionate, kind, serene, calm, and courageous. All of these qualities, we call them divine. While on the other side, there is the demonical. So this is the war that we're called to fight. And the principle is light always overcome the darkness. It's a principle in spirituality. Eventually, the light overcomes.
Yes, so returning to the first part, which spiritual materialistic, you are saying that we have to fight within ourselves to transcend the materialistic part of us, that the one which in fact we cannot take with us when we transition to the other side. So the spiritual is much more important, and we have to address and allocate more time to improve ourselves, to improve our spiritual side, because materialistically, the divine, the divinity will take care of us regardless.
Yes, you see, when you say materialistic forces, we have to understand what it means. A materialistic perception or a worldly perception is a perception of yourself as separate from others. And as soon as you perceive yourself to be separate from an individual, limited to this body, separate from others who are others than you, or other beings with other bodies, this is materialistic, because the moment you perceive yourself as such, you will have materialistic worldly desires to satisfy this body, because this is me. So naturally, I would need to accumulate wealth, to pursue relationships and possessions and position and power. See, when we say materialistic, it's not just money. It's everything that is worldly, that is not consciousness, that is not God. That is not the self. Because you perceive yourself as a body, therefore you have desires for money, possession, position, respect, name, fame, relationship. All of this goes with the wrong perception of yourself as separate from others. And what you said is very true. All of these objects that we are so much desiring, almost obsessively, craving, all of these objects that I mentioned, it is true. We cannot take them to the other side, because when we leave this body, we also leave behind all of these things that are connected with this body. But what you do take with you to the other side is your mind. And therefore, we invest in cultivating a mind that is pure, that is kind, that is full of light and knowledge, because then the journey continues. But eventually, as yogis, especially those of us who follow the philosophy of Vedanta, our goal is even higher than that. Is even higher than having a mind that is pure and full of light and all of that is kind. There is a higher goal in life, and we call it spiritual liberation.
Samadhi.
Meaning samadhi, or also moksha. Moksha, spiritual liberation, is the moment you know yourself, your true self, as not as a body, not as a mind, but as consciousness. And that consciousness is not individual, but is one with the whole. There is only one soul, and you are that one. And that soul is immortal, is unchanging, is eternal and infinite, and of bliss. That is the goal of life, according to our teachings. And this is what I would call real spiritual life, to aspire for that goal, to be fully 100% focused and having only one desire, to attain that highest goal of life.
Yes, and that's great. And you mentioned an amazing point that dualism is what holding us back, because we think that we are separate from those around us, and that in fact is separation from God, from divinity. And yes, it's a big struggle, a big battle, internal battle, to have that perception dissolved and be aware that we are one, for sure. Another point in another chapter in Bhagavad Gita is, which is better, serving the world or seeking wisdom in seclusion? Right, can we do both?
Yes, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who was born to be a warrior, a kshatriya, it is called in Sanskrit. A kshatriya is a caste of warriors, kings, leaders, rulers, who have a duty to protect humanity, to protect their community, in case there is a need, in case there is a righteous war. And even though that was his duty, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he was having doubts, serious doubts about this duty. And he had this idea to abandon his duty and become a sannyasi, a renunciate in the forest, just beg for food and meditate and be in seclusion, like you said. But Krishna, throughout these 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, is teaching him this is not the way to attain the goal of life, to escape your duty and to pursue the duty of another. His duty was to be in the world, to do duty in the society. That was his prescribed duty. So it was a mistake to desire to abandon this and become a swami or a sannyasi in the cave. So for each one has to go by their own karma, by their own prescribed duties. And so it's not so much a decision that one has to make to the will of God. Whether you are a renunciate in the cave or whether you live in the world, you can attain the goal of life. You can attain spiritual liberation. So these are just different lifestyles, different paths. You can serve the world in the world, or you can serve the world from the cave. But to be ready for a cave life requires a lot of preparation. It requires a high level of spiritual maturity to be in seclusion and to be fully dedicated to spiritual practice like meditation. It's not possible when the mind is still impure. So when there are still impurities in the mind, the path is called karma yoga, yoga of action, selfless service to humanity. So you can serve the world very beautifully in the world, whatever skill you have. If you have a skill of teaching or writing books, or maybe being a leader, or being a serving the poor and the sick, healing people, whatever skill you have, you can utilize to serve humanity and manifestation of God. So serving God in humanity. Like the founder of our organization, Swami Vishnu Devananda, he was doing a lot of peace missions because of his love to humanity. Because for him, humanity was a manifestation of God, of the divine. So this was, of course, but every once in a while, he was going to his cave for some seclusion to recharge his batteries and to gain to go back and serve the world. So one can be doing both, yes, serving the world and being in seclusion, or one can be just one of them, depending on your karma, depending on your the level of the purification of the mind. And in our lineage, we just say whatever the teacher, the divine teacher is guiding us to do. Like in the case of Arjuna, Krishna was guiding him to stay in the world and do his duty, but in a spiritual way, with a spiritual mindset, with the mindset of a renunciate. With what is the mindset of a renunciate? Not to be attached to the results of your actions, not to even feel I'm the doer of the action. Instrument in the hands of God, without ego. If you serve the world without ego, is just like being in seclusion and meditating. It's a spiritual practice. But in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna in the 18th chapter, I taught you everything that I could. Now do as you wish. Because the free choice is very important. So he explained to him why he should be participating in the war. But then he let him choose, because everything has to be done by free choice, free will.
Yes, indeed. And another example is even Paramahansa Yogananda. He had a very deep desire to go into the Himalayas, find a cave and start meditating and, pray to God. And his guru tried to pull him back, said, don't have to go there. You have everything you need is here in my ashram. But in the end, the desire was so powerful that he let him go. He went there and realized that indeed his own guru can offer everything he was looking for in a Himalayan cage. a cave, sorry, and he came back and he received the uh, Guru's blessing and the enlightenment and everything he wished for, and then he did his good work in the world and created the Civilization Fellowship.
Like you said, the best Himalayan cave is Guru's blessing. Sitting at the feet of the Guru, even if the Guru is in the middle of the Manhattan, the busiest city, is like a cave.
Yeah.
It's like a cave.
As long as the Guru is real, for sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about ego, and I think that's one of the main distractions we have these days. And also Bhagavad Gita talks about transforming the little self, which is the ego, into the divine self, the soul. What's your advice for someone who is struggling with the ego and cannot get rid of that aspect of very powerful aspect of ourselves?
I would advise patience, because it takes many, many, many years and lifetimes to dissolve this ego. Patience, but with practice, we gradually diminish the ego. It's very difficult to get rid of the ego, because who is going to get rid of the ego? I am. Who said that? The ego. So it's very tricky. It's very, very tricky. But somehow the practice itself is like magic. And gradually we cultivate humility. So starting on a spiritual practice seriously requires a teacher, a lineage, an authentic one, and then start to follow the instructions. In our lineage, we teach what we receive from our gurus, Swami Vishnu Devananda, Swami Shivananda. It's called the yoga of synthesis, little bit of everything. Because if you do too much of one thing, then it may actually make the ego to be puffed with pride. So a little bit of asana, yoga exercise postures, a little bit of pranayama, the breathing exercises to prepare for meditation, a little bit of meditation daily, some chanting of mantras, some bhakti, devotional practices like puja, some study of the scriptures, and of course, selfless service, karma yoga. So by following this and daily, like a checklist of your sadhana to make sure you're actually doing it. And another thing is to daily fill up in a notebook something that we call self-analysis. In your self-analysis, you just before you go to sleep at bedtime, you review the events of the day. And you ask yourself, was there some kind of a challenging moment today? Maybe an argument or a conflict or some negative emotion, anger, sadness, whatever. And then you ask yourself, what was the cause? And if you really contemplate, you will discover that the cause is some desire, some attachment that I have for myself. Like somebody was behaving disrespectfully. That made me angry. What does it indicate? That I have a desire to be respected. This is the ego. This is all about me, right? I need to be respected. I need to get this. I need to get that. This is the ego. Ego manifests in two ways, I-ness and minus. Right? I am very smart, or I am very stupid. This is same thing. It's ego, because the I is in the center. Or mine. This is my interview. This is my Bhagavad Gita class. This is my student. The minus is also a manifestation of the ego. So the more you analyze your motives, you see the ego very clearly in front of you. And when you see it, you can also gradually, in your self-analysis, you can indicate how you will behave differently next time. Next time, if somebody is praising me or offending me, equanimity. Let me keep serenity, peace, and this is already practice to get the ego out of the way. And why do I serve? Why do I agree to join this interview? Why do I teach the Bhagavad Gita? Why? If it's for name, fame, reputation, money, whatever, then it's selfish, it's ego. But if it's just to do my duty and benefit others without attachment, whether the result is good or bad, I offer it to God. I don't take the credit. This is the work, the spiritual work that we do to gradually dissolve the ego.
Yes, and in my case, to be honest with you, because so much is happening in the world these days, I find myself judging too much. So I have to, step back and say, God forgive me, I'm not judging, it's just my ego, and I move on. And I have to do it several times a day because it seems like every thought at one point is a judgment, it's a comparison. And when we compare, we also judge at the same time. So it's very, very tricky.
When we compare and we judge, not all we strengthen the sense of separation. This is another. And the more you are judgmental, the more you reinforce you as a separate being from another. So in our teaching, there is a practice that we do, which is called cultivating virtues and eradicating vices. Swami Sivananda wrote a book, How to Cultivate Virtues and Eradicate Vices. And there is a big list of virtues that one would need to cultivate, and a big list of vices that needs to be eradicated. One of the vices is called finding faults in others. It's a very common one. The mind has a tendency to find faults in others. So if you decide to, like 1 month, to just focus on eradicating this negative quality, finding faults, and you focus and you watch the mind to find each time that it's happening. And when it's happening, this judgment or finding faults or comparison, you immediately replace it with the opposite quality. What would be the opposite quality of finding faults? Is finding good things in others, and really noticing the good qualities of other people, of other beings. So instead of finding faults, let us focus on the good parts in our fellow beings and always wish them well. Mentally, even without speaking, you can inside always repeat, may you be well and happy.
Yes.
Like this, you eliminate this separation.
Yes, thank you for the advice. I will apply that to my existing approach to judging others. So yes, again, very, very challenging. Rukmini, do you find that we as people have a hard time surrendering to a higher consciousness?
Yes, we do. And again, what is the reason? The reason is our strong identification with this body, thinking this is me. This identification is false. It's a false identification with the physical body and the individual mind. But it's so habitual. We've been going through this for so many lifetimes. It's habitual, it's compulsive, it's obsessive. We we get attached to this identity. This is me. And when you say surrendering to higher consciousness, surrendering to the ultimate reality that you are, to your real identity, is very difficult when you are so habitually attached to this limited identity. We are afraid to let go of it. And in my opinion, the best practice is the practice of Vedanta, Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of wisdom. Because this is the yoga that is teaching you about your real nature. So the meditation, first of all, we have to study the scriptures, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutta. These are the three main scriptures in Vedanta. And we have to receive this knowledge from our guru, from a teacher who is qualified to transmit this knowledge, because it's not an intellectual knowledge, it's in the form of direct transmission. And then we have to contemplate and meditate on the teaching. What the Upanishads are telling you, that you are ultimate reality, you are consciousness, you are absolute existence, knowledge, and bliss. This is your true identity. But it's not your experience. This is the problem. The Upanishads are saying you are Satchit Ananda, absolute existence, consciousness, and bliss, unlimited, forever, immortal, happy, and infinite. The scriptures are telling you this, the teacher is telling you, but it's not your experience. You're saying, what do you mean I'm bliss? I don't feel bliss. What do you mean I'm consciousness? I just feel a physical being, limited. What do you mean I'm immortal? I feel that I will die. So it's not my experience. So then we have to reconcile this discrepancy. And this we do with the Vedantic meditations. These are analytical contemplations. And they're very, very powerful. You have to study them with the teacher, but it's a meditation on the question, who am I? And this meditation will lead you to your real identity. And then you will have no choice but to surrender to the highest consciousness, because you will discover that you are that consciousness. So this is very, very powerful. But another approach is through devotion, through love. You see, when you are in love, completely, totally in love with someone or something, you forget about yourself. You forget about your body, all your desires, all your little needs, you forget, because the love is so powerful. So imagine having the highest love towards God, who is the totality, everything, the ultimate reality. Through love, you can surrender to and become one with that highest consciousness. So either approach, love or inquiry.
Yes, so well said. And I'm not being sarcastic when I'm going to say that for those who fear the word meditation, just think of it as periods of silence with yourself. So if ego is afraid of the word meditation, just switch that word to a synonym, to something else, and then the ego will adjust to that silence of a period where you can sit with yourself, either in nature or, in a room, and go through that inner self-assessment, as you said, and see what has to change, how you can move forward, and always ask for advice. Because something which we don't touch on, and maybe you can expand on it, is we all have spiritual guides. We all have someone on the other side, on the intangible side, which can guide us through this physical, material life.
In many traditions, they talk about the spiritual guide. I assume this is what you're referring to, who is not a human being or
Yes. Yeah.
a physical being, but a subtle being that somehow is guiding you. This is very common in all spiritual traditions. In our tradition, Swami Shivananda said that you can tune your mind to the vibration of a saint, a yogi, a high being who maybe was on earth but left his or her body, like Swami Shivananda. Many people, even though he left his body in 1963, as many years ago, many people still receive guidance from him by tuning their mind to his mind, their vibration, his vibration. So if you manage to quiet the mind, like you said, you can go to nature, you can practice any technique of awareness of the breath, mantra. There are many meditation techniques, but their purpose is to quiet the mind. And when the mind is quiet, you get knowledge from a different place, not from the mind, not intellectual knowledge, but we call it intuition. So you may know things due to the clarity of the mind. You will receive knowledge from your own heart, or from a guide, or from a saint. But for that, you need to trust and to let the chat, the intellectual conscious mind subside. Let your thoughts subside and make the mind like a placid lake. Then knowledge will come from other sources.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Rukmini, let's talk about your ashram, what you offer, how people can join even for a short period of times. Let's expand on the programs, please.
Okay. Our ashram is located in the Bahamas on Paradise Island. It's a stunning location on one of the most beautiful beaches of the world. It's called Paradise Island, and for a good reason. We have a beautiful beach. On the beach, we have a yoga platform where people can do yoga. We have also very nice accommodations right on the water, more luxurious rooms and more simple rooms for all budgets. So the accommodations are very beautiful. Not all of them are on the beachfront, but we also have on the bayside. We have in the garden. The garden is also very nice. It's a tropical garden, so we have hundreds of coconut trees and other plants and trees, and the nature is very vibrant, very very nice. Also because we do a lot of rituals there. We have a Hindu priest who is taking care of all the temples. We have a forest temple and we have a few other temples. So the place itself is magical. People come from Bahamas, is the main city of the Bahamas. And from there, it's just a short taxi ride and then a 5-minute boat ride to the ashram. So you come with the boat and immediately you feel the special vibration of the place. We've been there since 1968. So it's now 54 years, almost 55 years. And 55 years of sadhana, spiritual practice, rituals, mantras, purification. So the place feels very, very special, very different from worldly places. It's a very sacred place. And the daily schedule, everyone who is coming is really enjoying because of course you have enough time to just enjoy the beach and your beautiful room on the water, but you also have 2 yoga classes every day, morning and evening. We have 2 satsangs, which early morning and in the evening is the session of meditation, some chanting, and a lecture, or sometimes a performance by a guest speaker or a musician or an artist. We bring guest speakers, musicians, artists from like the top places and from all traditions. We even conduct symposiums and conferences on unity and diversity when we're gathering representatives from Christianity, Judaism, Sufism, Buddhism, Hinduism, the Native American traditions. We bring a lot of scientists to talk about science and spirituality, Indian Mahatmas who are teaching scriptures, kirtan artists. So the program is very rich, and people can come for a yoga vacation and book a room for 2 days or 1 week or 1 month or 2 months, and just enjoy this routine. We offer workshops in the middle of the day. There is a delicious food that is served, vegetarian and cooked with a lot of love. So it's a very nice kind of routine. As a yoga vacationer, you have a lot of flexibility. You can stay in your home and read books. You can be in the beach. You can come to the yoga class. And then we also offer a more intensive program, which is called the Yoga Teacher Training Course. It's a 4-week immersion, highly recommended. Our organization already trained more than 50,000 yoga teachers, and it's a very, very powerful journey, highly, highly recommended. The immersion is into all aspects of yoga, the asana, breathing, the philosophy, anatomy, Bhagavad Gita, chanting, and some selfless service also during the day. And some people come as volunteers to serve in the ashram. And then, of course, it's much easier on their budget, but they also get to experience the practice of selfless service and still enjoy all that the ashram has to offer. And we also offer other trainings like Ayurveda, the medicine science of yoga, Thai massage, yoga therapy, all kinds of healing modalities. And we have advanced courses in yoga philosophy, in meditation. And many people come also to enjoy our guest speakers. So the program is all on our website, sivanandabahamas.org. Already we have almost a full calendar for 2023, and the fall of 2022 is there. Of course, the summer is also there. So yeah, highly recommend.
That's amazing. It's very enticing to make a trip there. And is this the only location you have in the world, or you have many others?
No, we have many others. We are part of the International Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Center. We have ashrams in the United States, in New York and California. We have an ashram in Canada and Quebec. We have in Europe, we have 2 ashrams, in France and Austria. We have in India 4 or 5 ashrams, in South America, in Vietnam, here in Israel, where I'm located at the moment. And also we have almost 40 centers in all the major cities in the world: London, Paris, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Toronto, Montreal. So really everywhere. It's a very large international organization. In the centers, the centers are not come to take a class, hear a lecture, and then go home. But ashram is residential, so you can come, you book a room, and you enjoy. And ashrams are also located in the nature, in the countryside, so they're more for a retreat.
Yes, so Bahamas seems very appealing. I mean, yes, it's the weather, the food. And is that ashram sustainable from, let's say, food supply perspective, or do you bring food from outside?
depending on the location, some of our ashrams are growing food. I don't know if 100% locally grown in the ashram, but definitely growing some food. In the Bahamas is more difficult. We're on an island. There is not really conditions in terms of the soil and the weather to really grow our food. And so, but we get the food from local places, but also some of the food is imported to the Bahamas, being an island country.
Yes. Rukmini, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
I would like to really share with the people who are watching my prayer and wish to everyone to find peace and happiness. These are challenging times. So humanity was going through some challenges, I'm sure many of you. The pandemic, the politics, the economic, but these challenging times are opportunities. From a spiritual point of view, there are opportunities. So even if externally it seems to be difficult, it's a calling, it's an invitation to find meanings and connect with spiritual teachers, connect with spiritual communities. Because, like you said, ultimately, why are we here for? We have to have a vision. Each one of you should have a long-term vision for yourself. And the vision should be happiness, because ultimately is common to all of us, this desire for happiness. All beings. And do you know why? Why all of us are seeking happiness? Because it is what you already are. This is the explanation. So there is an invitation here to find that happiness that you already are by going within. And so I really want to wish that to everyone. Peace, finding peace, happiness, bliss, and support from the community, to be a part of a community. And luckily we have this technology now that even if we cannot travel to an ashram, we can connect in this way.
Yes,
so
indeed. Once again, thank you very much for your time and for your wisdom, wise words. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. My pleasure.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it. Visit my website to get a free copy of my book. And until next time, love and gratitude.